I never thought my quiet life in a sleepy Ohio suburb could unravel so fast. At 57, I'm Olivia, trapped in a marriage that's grown as cold as the chipped coffee mug I clutch every morning. My days blur into a haze of routine until a stranger's piercing green eyes cut through the monotony, igniting a spark I thought had long died. Now, I'm standing on the edge of a forbidden desire, my heart racing with a secret that could shatter everything I've known for decades. What did I do in that stolen moment, and will it destroy my world? Picture this. I'm standing at the edge of my kitchen counter, the linoleum cool under my bare feet, staring at a chipped coffee mug that's seen better mornings. My name's Olivia, and at 57, I've got more gray in my hair than I care to admit, though I still tug at the strands in the mirror, hoping for a glimpse of the woman I used to be. My life, well, it's a quiet hum in a suburban corner of Ohio, where the days blur into one another like the faded yellow siding of our modest home. The backyard's a mess of overgrown weeds and forgotten dreams, mirroring the slow unraveling of my own heart. I've been married to Richard for over 3 decades. He's 60 now, a man who once filled our home with laughter and late-night whispers, but time has worn us down to mere shadows of those younger selves. Our connection's gone stale, like bread left out too long, crumbling at the slightest touch. 6 months ago, he lost his factory job, and since then, he's taken up permanent residence in our living room, sprawled across a worn-out recliner that creaks under his weight. He spends his hours lost in reruns of old game shows or swapping stories with his buddies, his voice a low rumble I can hear from anywhere in the house. Those friends of his, guys like Tom, a retiree with a laugh that could shatter glass, and Greg, a mechanic whose hands are always stained with grease. They're over almost every day. They barge in without a knock, leaving trails of beer cans and the sharp tang of cigarette smoke in their wake. I've started to feel like a ghost in my own home yesterday afternoon. The air was thick with late summer humidity, clinging to my skin as I stood in the kitchen, wiping down the counter for what felt like the 3rd time that day. I was restless, trying to keep my hands busy, the damp cloth squeaking against the worn surface. The house smelled of stale coffee and the faint musk of Richard's friends who'd already started piling in. I could hear their muffled voices from the living room, a familiar drone that barely registered anymore. Then Richard's gruff tone cut through the haze, calling out for me to come meet someone. I let out a sigh, figuring it was just another of his rough-edged pals, and shuffled in, my faded apron still tied around my waist, a smudge of flour on the hem from an earlier baking attempt. But when I stepped into the dim light of the living room, my breath caught. There he was, Ethan, a name I'd never heard until that moment, a 32-year-old man who seemed to pull every ounce of air from the space. His dark hair was tousled, like he'd just run a hand through it, and those piercing green eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that made my chest tighten. His smile, warm and effortless, lit up the room in a way I hadn't seen in years. Richard mumbled something about him being a friend of a friend, new in town for a construction job, but I barely heard it. I was too busy noticing the way Ethan's fitted gray t-shirt hugged his toned arms, the casual confidence in his stance, one hip cocked just slightly as he stood there. When he reached out to shake my hand, his grip was firm, lingering a heartbeat longer than it's later now, around 9 p.m., and the house has finally settled into a heavy stillness. The chaos of the day has faded, leaving behind a quiet that feels almost suffocating. Tom and Greg stumbled out earlier, their slurred goodbyes echoing down the driveway as they leaned on each other for balance. Richard, after one too many beers, is out cold in his recliner, his loud snores rumbling through the walls like a distant storm. The TV blares on in the background, some late-night infomercial host droning on about a miracle kitchen gadget, but it's just white noise to me. I'm in the living room, tidying up the mess left behind, picking up crumpled beer cans, wiping down the sticky coffee table with a rag that smells faintly of lemon cleaner. My hands move on autopilot, but my mind is elsewhere, replaying the moment I first saw Ethan, those green eyes cutting through the monotony of my day. I'm startled when I hear his voice behind me, low and steady, offering to help. I turn, and there he is, leaning against the doorway, his sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms dusted with dark hair. I hesitate, my instinct telling me to say no, to keep this distance between us, but the loneliness in me wins out. I nod, mumbling a quiet thanks, and he steps closer, grabbing a trash bag from the floor. We work side by side, our movements slow, almost deliberate, as if we're both aware of the unspoken tension crackling in the air. Every time our hands brush while passing the bag, it's like a spark ignites under my skin, sending a jolt straight to my core. I try to focus on the task, but I catch myself stealing glances at him, noticing the way his jaw tightens when he thinks I'm not looking. I make awkward small talk, something about the mess these guys always leave, and he chuckles softly, a sound that warms me in places I've long forgotten. My cheeks burn, and I duck my head, hoping he doesn't see the flush creeping up my neck. Eventually we finish, and somehow we end up on the couch. I'm still on the couch, my heart pounding so hard, I swear it might break through my chest. The air feels thick, heavy with the weight of what just happened between Ethan and me. That moment, our lips meeting in a forbidden rush, still lingers like a fever I can't shake. I'm frozen, my mind spinning in 1,000 directions, trying to make sense of the fire that ignited in me. Ethan sits beside me, his face flushed, the warmth of his presence almost too much to bear. He shifts slightly, his voice low and rough as he murmurs that he didn't mean to cross a line, that he felt something real between us, something undeniable. His words hit me like a wave, pulling me under, and I don't know how to surface. My hands are trembling in my lap, and I can't meet his gaze. I whisper that this can't happen, that I'm married, that Richard is just in the next room, oblivious to the storm brewing in here. But my voice betrays me, weak and hollow, lacking the conviction I so desperately need. I hate myself for it, for the way my heart races at the thought of Ethan's touch, for the way I'm torn between duty and desire. Inside, it's a battlefield. Part of me aches to lean into him again, to chase that electric spark that made me feel alive for the first time in years, to let myself drown in the heat of the moment. But another part screams at me to stop, to pull back before I shatter everything I've built, before I lose myself completely in this dangerous pull. It's like I'm standing on the edge of a cliff, the wind tempting me to jump, while my feet beg to stay rooted to the ground. My chest tightens with the weight of it all, guilt and longing twisting together until I can barely breathe. Ethan nods slowly, as if he can sense the war raging inside me. He stands, the movement deliberate, and I feel the space between us grow cold. But before he turns away, he looks at me with those piercing green eyes, full of unspoken promises, a silent invitation that makes my stomach flip. He says he'll go. I'm standing in the dim glow of the living room, the silence pressing down on me like a heavy fog. My heart still racing from earlier, from that stolen moment with Ethan that I can't seem to scrub from my mind. I glance over at Richard, slumped in his recliner, his chest rising and falling with each deep, uneven breath. The TV's still on, casting flickering shadows across his face, but he's far gone into sleep, unaware of the chaos swirling inside me. I'm torn apart, wrestling with whether to wake him, to spill everything about that forbidden rush of warmth, that fleeting connection that's left me shattered. My feet move on their own, inching closer to his chair, each step heavier than the last, as if the truth itself is weighing me down. Then, a creak echoes from the hallway, sharp and sudden, and my heart stops dead. I whip around, my pulse hammering in my ears, half expecting to see someone there, but it's just the old house settling. My eyes dart to the side table next to Richard's recliner, and I notice his phone, screen lighting up with a soft glow. A text notification. It's not locked, Richard never bothers with that, and before I can stop myself, some reckless, desperate impulse takes over. I snatch it up, my fingers trembling as I swipe the screen open. The message is from Ethan. My breath catches as I read the words. Sorry about tonight. Didn't mean to cause trouble. Let me know if she's okay. My stomach plummets, a cold dread pooling inside me. Richard must have seen something, heard something, Or worse, did Ethan feel the need to confess? The words burn into me, each one a tiny dagger. Ethan isn't just reaching out to a friend. He's checking in with Richard about me, about what happened. Panic claws at my chest as I scroll up, unable to stop myself, needing to know more. There, in earlier messages, I see Richard's words to Ethan from days ago, casual but pointed. He'd written that I've been down lately, asked Ethan to keep an eye out during his visit. It's Sunday morning now, and I'm standing in the kitchen, the faint hum of the coffee maker the only sound breaking the heavy silence. I barely slept last night, my mind replaying every second of that forbidden moment with Ethan, the heat of it burning through my thoughts like a wildfire I can't extinguish. My eyes are gritty, my body heavy, but I cling to this mundane routine, measuring out the grounds, pouring the water, as if it can anchor me back to some semblance of normalcy. The kitchen smells of roasted beans and yesterday's regret, and I can't shake the weight pressing down on my chest, a mix of guilt and something I'm too afraid to name. I hear the shuffle of feet behind me, and my shoulders tense. Richard comes in, his hair a mess, eyes bleary from sleep, but there's an unusual quiet to him, a stillness that sets my nerves on edge. I brace myself, expecting the worst, waiting for him to bring up last night, to ask questions I don't know how to answer. Instead, he pulls out a chair at the small kitchen table, the legs scraping against the floor, and sits down with a heavy sigh. "We need to talk, Liv," he says, his voice low, almost tentative. My heart drops like a stone, but I turn to face him, gripping the edge of the counter for support, my knuckles whitening. To my shock, he doesn't mention Ethan or the charged air that hung between us last night. There's no accusation in his eyes, no hint of suspicion. Instead, he looks down at his hands, rough and calloused from years of hard work, and starts to speak. He apologizes, his words slow and deliberate, for being so distant lately, for letting his unemployment drag him into a rut, for allowing his friends to turn our home into their personal hangout spot. He admits he's seen how unhappy I've been, how I've been carrying the weight of our life alone, and he says he wants to do better. He even floats the idea of couples counseling, something I never thought I'd hear from him. "I don't want to lose us," he mumbles. "Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you."